by force. Like, it's not a no one concedes power.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like, and you're right. I think in the United States, I think that the leadership plays a part. Like, I think when we see the leaders fighting, and like the president saying like, "Get him the hell out of here," kick his butt, right? I think people do respond to it resonates with them and they act on that, right? But I also think that when people see Congress members fighting and they can't get along, they can't make a decision, I think that translates down into the population also. And on top of that, I think that when they see the liberals kind of behaving the way they behave, I think that translates too. Like, I think a lot of that, you're right, man. I think bad leadership can cause a lot of issues. And I know, one thing.
But is it bad leadership or is it political theater? Like, those people are in power. Everybody stays in power. It switches back and forth, but they probably live different lifestyles than everybody else. And it's like, I feel like a lot of that stuff is just political theater. Like, it's not how they truly feel. They just do it's just like, I put on my voice. Like, Boris and Coco are two different people. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are two different people. And I think it's the same way with politics, right? Like, I think those are two different people when it really boils down to it. So, is it really that the U.S. is horrible, or is it a way to massively control the population? Because if you're stuck on stupid issues, you can't get to the real issues.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're robbing us blind. Like,
yep.
Well, the only reason we're in debt is because we want to be in debt. Well, it's just a transfer of wealth. It's not that, they look at welfare and stuff like that, but they don't look at government contracts. They don't look at, the prison system, like all these money-generating things that the government does. They don't view everything as a transfer of wealth, and that's what it is. Like, it just depends on if it's the transfer of wealth that they like. Right?
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head.
It's a distraction from the unit, though. See, that's what I'm saying. My argument is that all this political stuff is a distraction from the family unit. Like, Jermaine, look what you're doing in your family. You're the head. You're the leader. You're making sure your kids are getting the best education that is out there. You're providing the finances. And if you get all wrapped up into this political system, instead of putting that energy into your house, to your family, that's my argument. Because all this stuff is big going on. It's going to keep on going on. But how I like your program, Coco, because it's empowering people to just start looking at their own families. Mm-hmm. We can educate our own kids. We don't have to worry about no poor school system. If your child's in a poor system, then you do some homeschooling. You do tutoring. There's a lot of other things you can do besides sitting back waiting, complaining about what Donald Trump ain't doing. Donald Trump don't care. Barack Obama don't care.
Yep. I agree with you, Mama. I mean, I think about, the example I gave actually when I was talking to the students the other day in the Black Dragon lecture that we did last night. Oh, you froze. Are you there? Uh-oh. Hold on, I think I lost you guys. Let me switch my Wi-Fi out. But one of the examples I gave is I was talking about when we were little, and hold on, let me get you back in here.
You think Zoom shut us down?
Oh, I'm back. Sorry about that. Sorry. Yeah. Well, sorry.
We get too political. They got stuck.
I know, right? Now Zoom is Big Brother. But let me tell you, Mama. I talked about you last night when we did the Black Dragon lecture. And one of the things I talked about was, I love letting people know like how you were just 17 years old when I was born, and your friends had a lot of your friends had kids that was the same age as me and Tangi, and they raised their kids in a certain way, whereas you and Daddy raised us in a different way. said, I don't care what's going on out here. This is how it's going to be in our house. Like, you know, and I thought about our house, and our house was a government. It was like a government. It was like very communist dictatorship. You and Daddy had an agreed upon structure of leadership. Y'all made the rules. That's the way it was. It didn't matter what everybody else was doing. And you saw the difference in terms of the outcomes. You know, like in the house, it wasn't about, you know, like liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican, or what's happening in the world. It was about like little basic stuff, like take responsibility for your own choices. You know, if you end up, like when I went to college, I knew that if I ended up in jail over something stupid, I was going to just be in jail. I'd have to handle it. I can't call my parents and assume they're going to just clean up after every mess that I make, which was just like a basic and personal responsibility. Or other little things like, if you don't want your life to be messed up, make good decisions. You know, go read some books, educate yourself, go to school. If you don't go to school, then why would you expect not to be a failure if you don't ever get any education? You know, and I think little basic things like that, it was interesting to me because, you know, I didn't realize till I got older how different, like me and Tangi and Lawrence's outcomes were compared to a lot of like your friends and their kids. You know, and I really believe that it was just the difference in terms of just saying, like having the courage to say, I don't care what the rest of the world is doing in this house. This is the way it's going to be. You know, so I really think that played a part in like kind of how I view a lot of this stuff. It's like so what if who's in the White House? It don't really matter. That ain't really. I mean, it might affect you a little bit, but it really don't matter that much. You know, what really matters is are you having your kids do their homework every night? You know, are you teaching them the things they need to know? You know, are you preparing them for life to make good decisions? If you're not doing that, they can have the best president in the world, and it still won't matter. Your child still will not be successful. So there you go. That's my 2 cents. I did all the talking tonight. Can you guys hear me?
Well, I enjoy personal podcasts. I listen to podcasts, but I truly enjoy personal podcasts. That's what this is, a personal podcast.
Yeah, this is fun. I think it's you know, to me, I really think in general, like I think being black is just the best opportunity in the world, you know, to do something good and something different. I think the best thing about us is that, you know, we don't have to do all the stuff white people are doing. And when I see a lot of this stuff, like I see them fighting over immigration and LGBT and all whatever else they're fighting about, and to me, it's like that really is, as Jermaine said, it really is political theater to me. It's not really something where I feel like this is really going to impact my life. What impacts my life is what I do on a day-to-day basis, how hard I work. If I'm lazy, bad things happen. If I work hard, good things happen. You know, and I think that's what that Black Dragon program is all about. Is kind of saying like, stop worrying about what the whole black community is doing. Stop worrying about what America's doing. Just focus on what you're doing and what your family's doing. Create a stable scenario. Implement some policies. Have some procedures. Create practices and develop a culture in that household that breeds success. And I think if you know every family that does that, they're going to do better. They're not just going to do better than most black people. They're going to do better than most white people.
Well, and plus you take advantage of whoever's in power. For example, if you know, the Democrats, I'm gonna say, in power, and they open charter schools where your child can get a free education, a better education, or whatever, and you take advantage of that. You take advantage of the programs around you. You take advantage of, I mean, y'all went to tutoring programs, and you know, what you can afford, you take advantage of all those things, and it's gonna, and that's what truly makes a difference. And I think a part of this strategy is from the enemy, because what it does, it keeps people so focused. You got people living in the same house fighting because one wants Donald Trump and the other one wants Obama. In the house, it's like, no, we want to pay the rent. If Donald Trump is offering a job, take the job, you know, and move on, you know. But we're gonna destroy our family, stop talking talking to each other because a political person in Georgia, all of them went to each other's weddings and stuff. That's what's hilarious to me.
Yeah, they got pictures. They got pictures of the Trumps and the Clintons hanging out together.
And look at Obama and Hillary. They were hating each other. And then Bush and all of them at the same funeral, at the same row, kikiing with each other. The common sense should tell you something about those relationships.
It's all like Jermaine said. It's all political theater, you know.
It's political theater, but the sad part about it, you got families actually not speaking to one another, angry with one another over this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part. And so it goes back to what you was talking about, the Dragon family. You can't have a Dragon family with that type of division.
No, you can't. You can't, and you know.
And so, if you all gonna be fussing, and even if you look at the extended family, let's move past the Dragon family. Let's move. I mean, the nuclear family. Go to the extended family. You look at, you got Margie and Chuck and Jermaine, and you know, all having businesses and stuff. But we're gonna stop helping each other and talking to each other because, you know, one likes Trump and one likes Obama. You know. It's just foolishness as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I'm gonna tell you who does a good job of breaking stuff down. You know, Claude Anderson. You know, when he came in, that's what one thing he was saying is that all that stuff has to be secondary. You know, you cannot let your Democrat, Republican issues divide you. You can't let your religious issues divide you. How you feel, gay, straight, whatever, LGBT, all that. Don't let that divide you. You can believe those things, but those have to be secondary. You know, to blackness, and also secondary to getting the economic power. And what I found was that when I studied Chinese culture, you know, we went to a lot of different cities, and me and Alicia were walking through Shanghai. We were listening to this audio book that covered like thousands of years of history. And one of the things that we noticed was that the country, they just made a decision. They said, you know, we might have our internal differences. We have, you know, I think they have 90 something different minority groups or something crazy in the country. They said, we're going to have our differences, but we will always put China first. Being Chinese is number one, so everybody else is secondary. And then number two, they just said the economics is what matters. Ain't nothing going on but the rent. You know, so at the end of the day, you can have your little disagreements over different topics, but there must be a point where we understand that we all got to eat. And we have to do what's necessary to make that happen. And I think it took them like a process to get there. Like they had to go through some of the ups and downs that a young country would go through. Like the U.S. is a very young country compared to a China. China's thousands of years old. So they had divisions. They had, you know, it was broken into different pieces with different sections warring with each other. And as Jermaine said, it took strength of a certain leader to bring them all together under one umbrella. But even then, they had to learn some things. Like, for example, they had a time where, you know, like they had where opium, the British were just selling all their opium in China, and everybody was hooked on drugs. And that made me think about when black people had the crack epidemic, when they put the crack in the black neighborhoods. And you had to have people that had the courage in China to go and say, this is not good for the future of our country. So they started burning down the opium factories. They started fighting the British because they were like, you're not going to get all of our people hooked on drugs. And so basically, you know, when you think about the black community, that's what you've had to have. You had to have people that really stood up against all the things we're addicted to, like the drugs, you know, whether it's alcohol, drinking, partying, you know, the craziness that's in the music. You know, where a lot of these record labels are putting out this music that's promoting like black genocide, disrespect to women, financial irresponsibility, sexual irresponsibility. You have to have courageous leaders that can step out and challenge all of that. And what happens is you're going to go to war when you do that because you're getting in the way of somebody's economic interest. You know, so the British got mad because they were making money selling drugs to the Chinese. And there are people that get mad at somebody like me because they're making money selling BS to black people. They're making money selling that crazy, terrible music. They're making money selling this BS every time there's an election, and they're making money. All these radio stations get paid money by the Democratic Party to get black people to go out and vote. And I've never told black people not to vote. I just said, go vote for who you want. I don't care who you vote for, because I don't think it's going to make a difference, but do what you want to do. But then after you do that, let's get together and really do something that's really going to make a difference. Because you look back, and no matter who's in office, last 30, 40 years, ain't nothing changing. I mean, you go back 50 years, nothing has changed no matter who got elected. And I'm like, how in the hell are they convincing y'all that somehow it's going to be different this time? Like, it's crazy. If you got a man that's been beating you, cheating on you, talking to you like crap, kicking you in the head every morning, and he's been doing that for 50 years, and he comes back and he hands you some flowers and says, I won't do it no more. What makes you think that this time's going to be different? You got to be stuck on stupid. It's crazy to me.
Well, China also, now you talking about those leaders that started the war against the drugs, the British. Now, they had some ruthless leaders that were killing the drug addicts. I mean, that's how far they went with it. Yep. America would not stand for that.
Nope.
But they was literally, if you got hooked on drugs, you were dead.
Yeah.
And that's a part of their history, too.
I think to this day...
So, freedom ain't free.
No.
Freedom.
Yeah, freedom ain't free, and freedom ain't pretty. And just winning ain't pretty. And I think it's just one of those things where it's like, there's just stuff that sometimes we get idealistic about stuff, but you're right. I think to this day in China, I think if you go to China and you sell drugs, I think they do give you the death penalty. They don't play with that. If you're a drug dealer, I think it's the death penalty or life in prison, or it's like a real serious sentence. It ain't like, we're just gonna, take you to rehab, like they're doing all these white people getting hooked on meth or whatever they getting hooked on, heroin and all that stuff. No, they don't do that. They're serious about protecting their community. They're serious about protecting their culture. They're serious about protecting the ideas that infiltrate their society. And probably too protective sometimes. Like when I was over there, I couldn't even get on Google, Facebook, or none of that because they blocked it. If you use Chinese internet at any hotel, any Wi-Fi, whatever, you cannot get on Facebook or Google or Gmail or YouTube because they don't want that in the country for economic reasons and political. But at the same time, though, sometimes that works out well, sometimes it doesn't. But I think I'm a fan of that. I know Kenny Gamble, the guy in up in Philadelphia that co-hosted the All Black National Convention with us. I told you about Kenny, right? Mama, Dad, I told you about Kenny.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, Kenny Gamble was the co-host of the All Black National Convention. He was the guy I told you. I told you and Daddy about him. He wrote him and Gamble and Huff. They wrote like.
Oh yeah. The song. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, he wrote all them songs, but it was funny because when he started writing songs and making money, he went back and bought his old neighborhood. He bought the house he grew up in. Then he bought like 100 or 200 other houses. So he owns like all these blocks in Philadelphia, and he bought them cheap because nobody wanted to live there. It was like the worst neighborhoods and everything. And he was honest about it. When he was on the panel at the convention, he said, I had to go and have a conversation with the pimps and the hustlers and the drug dealers, and I had to tell them, you can't do that no more on this corner. And he said, and if you do not comply, he said, I cannot be responsible for what happens to you if you don't agree to what I'm asking you to do. And I think that's like the ugly part that people don't want to acknowledge, that sometimes you got to fight for what you want. If you ain't ready to fight for it, or maybe even die for it, then there's a good chance you won't never get it. So, and I know at the very least when it comes, maybe not necessarily on a government level, we have to think about that, but I think definitely on a family level. I mean, if you think about that, what most men would be willing to die, and women too, would be willing to die to protect their family. If a child molester wanted to come in and get to your kids, you'd be ready to fight to the death for that, And so I think that, doing that on a family level translates to the community level,
Yes.
So that's why I like it. I don't really like sitting around waiting for politicians or waiting for the whole black community to get on the same page. We got too many crazy, stupid black people out here. You know, I can't be waiting on every Negro out here. I'd rather just focus on the people that want to do something better and something different, and then say, let's just do it. You know, the door's wide open. Ain't no white man gonna get. I've been doing this for 10 years, and never once has a white man, blocked me from getting online and sharing ideas and talking to people. Never once has a white man stopped me from writing a book. Never once has a white man stopped me from reading a book. Never has a white man stopped me from starting a business. Like, this idea that racism stops us from doing anything productive, I think that's a seed that was planted in our head that gives us a crutch and excuses laziness. Excuses a lack of effort. Like, the reason I ain't successful, I ain't never did nothing, is because white folks won't let me do nothing. Yeah, there's certain things white people will never let me do. Like, they'll never, they won't let me go and work in their corporations. I know that. I probably can't go get a job at most white universities because they don't want radical black professors like me. I probably can't go, into white public schools and talk to the kids because they don't want radical black men around like me. But that does not stop my range of motion. I got a lot of options that I can follow as long as I can open my mind and not think that I need to be up there next to white folks to be a successful black man. That's the biggest problem right there. That's why I think people feel trapped, is because we define being accepted by and invited in by white people to mean they're successful. And if you're not invited in, then you feel like you have no options. And I realized, wait a minute, I got a billion options out here that ain't got nothing to do with doing hardly nothing around white people. And that's how I live. And now it's like, I don't even, you could offer me the best job. Tomorrow you could offer me the chance to be president of Harvard University, and I would politely decline. It literally would mean nothing to me, because I reframe how I see these institutions. I said, that's your stuff. That's good for you. That's a great school. Good luck with that. But I want to go build a great school in the black community. So to me, the Black Business School is far superior to a Harvard University, because it's not just doing like quality work, but it's doing quality work for what I perceive to be quality people. Not that black people are better or more important, but they're more important to me. So, so I think with China, it's the same kind of mentality where they're like, oh, it's good for you that you went to Harvard or Yale or Stanford. If you go there, that's great. Bring your knowledge back to China. But when you ask them, like, what are the best universities in the world, they're not going to say the best universities in the world are in other countries. They're going to say the best universities in the world are right here that are doing things for people of China, and that's all that really matters to us. And I think black people learn a lot from that. I really do. I'm done talking. This was fun.
All right.
Well, I love you guys, and thank you for letting me ramble on. I appreciate it. And I let